The Chinese communists, they believe that religion is poison to the mind. Knowing that we are refugees in this country, knowing that our country is occupied by the communist Chinese, and knowing that our country is going through a very difficult situation, all the young people, they are very dedicated to the Tibetan cause, and they are very fervent in their way of thinking, of saying that I'm a Tibetan and I have a responsibility.
In October 1950, Communist China invaded Tibet. His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama was just 15 years of age. Tens of thousands of Tibetans fled, making the painstaking journey to India, where the Dalai Lama established a Tibetan government in exile. Here, the values, culture and way of life so cherished by the Tibetans would be kept alive. Many people lost their lives and a great number of children were orphaned, resulting in the need for a community to be established to care for them. The Dalai Lama and his sister, Sering Dolma, approached the Indian government and were granted with land to establish the first Tibetan children's village. Today, it consists of 38 homes, housing children from birth to 18 years of age, and is one of 15 children's villages scattered across India.
Her name is Ngong Palmo. She lost her mother when she was 15 days old. That because her father was drunk and did not look after the mother and child, and mother was burned by herself by putting kerosene, and she was died. Since then, she was looked by grandmother, and we were informed that we could take her in a crutch. So we told the grandmother if she could keep for at least 2 years, and she kept for last 2 years, and now it's 2 weeks ago she was admitted here. Now she will be permanent here, and I hope she will become a good Tibetan afterwards.
I was informed by His Holiness to take over and to continue with this work, and so in 1964 in May I sort of took over and started to do what my sister started in 1960, and then my sister went for medical treatment to Calcutta, and later in Calcutta they discovered she had cancer, so she went to England, but it was too late, and then in November 1964 she passed away. The first 51 children came, and then His Holiness entrusted my sister to look after these children, and that's how it was started in 1960 in May, soon after His Holiness moved to Dharamsala. At that time, we didn't have the facilities which we have now. There was an old English bungalow which had 4 large rooms, and we started with that. In the beginning, it was known as the Nursery for Tibetan Refugee Children. And slowly, from the Nursery for Tibetan Refugee Children, we turned it into a Tibetan Children's Village. When we first started in the early 60s, there was malnutrition. Children would be coming here, with sores everywhere, and then, they would have skin diseases. Then there were times when children, even in the early 60s, when I was working here, we would receive like 200 children from Nepal, and half of them had gastroenteritis. And there were times when we, in a night we would lose like 3 children or 4 children, and it was really difficult. We didn't even have proper mugs for the children. We would be getting a lot of assistance, like tinned food. On one bed, We used to have like double-decker bed would have 6 children underneath and 6 or 8 children on top. And in the beginning, the children would be sleeping on the floor. Luckily, the bungalow, this Egerton Hall it was called, we had like the floors were wooden. So we would have children sleeping on the floor, one next to the other, like sardines, and in a room which was the size of, say, 15 feet by 20 feet. In a room like that, we would have as many as sometimes like 200 children just sleeping on the floor. It was really difficult,
The introduction of houses, each with its own house mother, has reduced cramped conditions that made devoting time to the children as individuals difficult, and has rebuilt a caring, stable family atmosphere previously lost by so many here.
Each child is assigned to some house chore, they have to do, and they help the mother to cook, they help the mother to do the washing, they help the mother to clean up the house, to polish the floors, and everybody's kept busy.
Tikzuro de Chuni Shingi Omarala. Tikzu Danda sources to Tutu Chieda and Punya, but the Tevado de Chuni Chagumdala. But in the Kanga Tango lips of Kanano. No, Juxum Juxin in Menzoda, change to the Pantom, both the Tijin, the Bochunga the Pench at home, the Korans of Tungi Omarala. Both shared the Anikorans of Nimatako Computer de Sura. In the China India, in the China India, the Deshet of Yawadia Computer and Takwa the Koranti Langa our daughter. Pama make your Mongo shoot. Some power make your armor make you the car tie job or Zidan Pama you and car tie jobs your the Mongo shoot Hamani made. Ni Jotan testes too. Ganza make your like Ni Majola.
We have to treat them as like our own mother, and we have to treat, and wherever we go, we have to take together and we sleep together, and they will don't miss their own father and mother.
Family life allows the children to explore their surroundings, whilst their daily routine creates a structure, enabling them to easily adapt to their environment.
My name is Tenzi Chombe, and I am 15 years old. And daily we have to wake up at, actually the food maker or kitchen duty have to wake up at the 4:30. So they have to make the breakfast, tea, and cut the breakfast ready for the lunch.
If they go to the schools, existing schools in Tibet, they become more Chinese than Tibetans, because everything is taught in Chinese language. And from the primary school level, the Tibetan is not even taught to the Tibetan children. So that way, the parents are very anxious, and that's one of the main reasons why they're sending their children here for education. In Tibet, it's very sinicized. It's all whatever they're doing in China, they are doing in Tibet, and they are trying to make Tibetan children as Chinese as possible. And then, you know, there are so many restrictions, you know, and our Tibetan children are really sort of discriminated, even in our own country. Each year we are receiving, I'm sure, more than 1,500 youths who come out of Tibet seeking education, either in the monasteries or in the, in our schools. In the infant section, we've got our trained Montessori teachers, and we followed this Montessori method of teaching since the early 60s. And we feel that this has worked very well for our children, because Montessori teaching emphasizes, you know, a lot of attention to each individual child, and that each individual child goes at his own pace, all right? And there are many different equipments and, you know, learning kind of material that they use, and the teacher teaches like 1-to-1 or 1-to-2, 2 children and 1 teacher, or sometimes if it's singing and working, you know, you have in groups. But it's a very a lot of individual attention is given, and that has worked wonders with us, and we have followed the Montessori method of teaching, and we have adapted it even in teaching Tibetan language. We feel that we are preserving the Tibetan culture, first of all, in the, you know, by introducing medium of instruction through Tibetan language, because the pillar for any culture is the language, the spoken and the written language. And that way, because, you know, with the advice of His Holiness, you know, to give education in Tibetan, now up to the primary school level, we do through Tibetan language.
Each house is responsible for cooking its own meals. The older children helping the house mother to prepare the food that up until 2 years ago was provided to all houses by a common kitchen. This home-style cooking has resulted in improvements to both the children's health and spirit.
Our schools mostly is sheep and cow's meat. The vegetable is spinach, yeah.
In the evening, they have, prayers, and prayers are explained to them, you know, to make the children more aware of their own culture, their own religion. Well, we are emphasizing that whatever you teach the children, that it should be linked to our culture. And this is also very helpful for the children to know, to get into Buddhism. Yes. Tibetans have cherished this religion so much, and you know, we have sort of, what shall I say, we have shown great importance to it, and we have practiced Buddhism so much that I jokingly say it's even in our veins, in our genes. And Buddhism has become a way of life for the Tibetans. Trying to understanding the deeper meaning of it. And the deeper meaning of all religion, I would say, is to become a good human being. This is something which we try to emphasize. And His Holiness's hand is always stretched out to the Chinese. And we feel that, with maybe the Chinese leaders slowly will have the wisdom to come forward, because there's enough war and, unpleasant things happening in the world. And we Tibetans, we are earnest about coming to, solving our problem through peaceful means. And I think if the Chinese would have the wisdom to say, all right, let's sit together, let's discuss. And His Holiness has gone as far as saying, Tibet was an independent country. That was the past. Now for the future, let's work together.